My neighbor parked in my garage, so I locked her in and left for a week. I just staggered home from a grueling triple shift at the hospital, my body screaming for rest. The day had been a nightmare. Burn victims from a fire in the lower districts, chaos in the ER, and the weight of life-and-death decisions pressing on my chest. All I wanted was a quiet night in my apartment, a chance to recharge. But as I pulled into my private parking bay, my blood ran cold. There was a gleaming SUV parked dead center in my spot like it owned the place. The culprit? My neighbor, Vanessa, the self-appointed dictator of our housing complex. She'd been a thorn in everyone's side since I moved in. She'd gotten old mister. Harris fined for his harmless wind chimes, claiming they disturbed the aesthetic. She'd spread rumors about young Mia's work ethic, delaying her promotion with baseless gossip. And me? She tried to shut down my home workshop for excessive noise during hours I was legally allowed to tinker. Now, here she was trespassing on my last shred of personal space. I'd had enough. Fuming, I marched to her apartment. She appeared before I could pound on her door, sunglasses perched on her nose, a smug grin plastered across her face. "Vanessa," I said, barely keeping my voice steady, "is that your SUV in my bay?" She didn't even flinch. "Yeah, it's mine." She sipped her iced coffee, the picture of arrogance. "Why the hell is it there?" I snapped. She shrugged, like I was asking about the weather. "I needed the space. Your driveway's too steep for my suspension, and your bay was empty. Be a good neighbor, Ethan." My jaw clenched. Be a good neighbor? This was the same woman who demanded access to my private Wi-Fi when hers went down, then complained about my selfishness when I refused. "Vanessa," I growled, "that's my property. You can't just take it." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic, Ethan. I was in a rush. I'll move it later, after my salon appointment." "Move it now," I demanded. A theatrical sigh. "I can't. Just let it go." With a flick of her perfectly styled hair, she turned and sauntered back inside, her door sliding shut with a hiss. I stood there, my pulse pounding, a cocktail of rage and glee bubbling inside me. This wasn't just about a parking spot anymore. It was about boundaries, respect, and Vanessa's refusal to learn either. Calling the police would be too quick, too impersonal. Towing her car? Too clean. No, this called for something memorable. A lesson she'd never forget. I stormed back to my bay, each step fueling my resolve. My recently installed high-res security cameras, set up after Vanessa's last complaint about my workshop, were already rolling, ready to capture every second of what was coming. I grabbed the control panel for the bay door, punched in the lockdown code, and watched as the reinforced steel door slammed shut with a satisfying thud. Her SUV was trapped. For good measure, I secured the side access panel and double-checked the magnetic locks. No way in, no way out without my permission. Standing in the silence of my perfectly executed trap, I felt a rush of triumph. Then, with a grin, I packed an overnight bag. I was headed to an orbital casino for a pre-planned weekend getaway, a perfect escape from the chaos of work and, now, Vanessa's entitlement. Whistling a tune I'd picked up from a documentary about prison gangs, I locked up, checked my reflection in the control panel, damn, I looked good, and headed out. She wants my bay? I muttered to myself. Fine, she can stay in it. As I boarded the elevator to the casino, I pictured Vanessa's reaction when she realized her precious SUV wasn't going anywhere. How long would it take? An hour? 2. I chuckled, settling into my seat, already tasting the victory. The casino was a blur of lights, drinks, and high-stakes poker. I was on a hot streak, raking in credits, unbothered by the world below. What I didn't know, until I checked the camera feed later, was that Vanessa had slipped back into the bay to grab something from her car just before I locked it down. The footage was pure gold. For the first few hours, she was annoyed, tapping her foot, expecting me to show up. Then came confusion. Then panic. She yanked at the door controls, useless without my codes, and pounded on the steel, her shouts muffled by the soundproofing I'd installed, ironically, to appease her noise complaints. By day 2, the neighborhood was buzzing. "Anyone seen Vanessa?" asked Mrs. Clara from across the hall. "Her dog's been howling nonstop." A kid from the lower levels chimed in. Heard she got shipped off to a penal colony for being a pain. Good riddance. The gossip spread like wildfire, each rumor a delicious twist of a knife. Vanessa's husband, Greg, a spineless pushover, assumed she was on a shopping spree in the Upper District. He didn't even check. Inside my bay, Vanessa was living a nightmare of her own making. No phone signal. My bay was shielded for privacy. Food. She scrounged some stale protein bars I'd left in a toolbox. Water? A single emergency flask in her car's survival kit. The bathroom situation? Let's just say the cameras caught her improvising with an empty can in a way that would have made a rat cringe. It was humiliating. It was perfect. She tried everything. She honked the SUV's horn until the battery nearly died, as if someone would hear her through the soundproof walls. She screamed until her voice gave out. She even attempted to squeeze through the waste disposal chute, a chute meant for rags, not people. The footage showed her flailing, stuck halfway, covered in grime, looking like a trapped animal. After hours of wiggling, she gave up, slumping back in her car, defeated. Then came the tire iron. She swung it at the door like a woman possessed, grunting with every futile strike. The steel didn't budge. It mocked her. Eventually, she collapsed in the driver's seat, her chest heaving, her eyes wild. She started talking to the SUV, begging it to fix this, as if it could drive her out. When that failed, she just stared at the walls, her confidence crumbling. The woman who'd terrorized our neighborhood was unraveling, and I had a front row seat. A week later, I returned, refreshed and a few thousand credits richer. As the bay door groaned open, Vanessa burst out like a caged beast, her hair matted, clothes filthy, reeking of desperation. "You!" she shrieked, her voice raw. "You locked me in. I'll have you arrested. You're done, Ethan." I sipped a cold coffee, mimicking the one she'd left on her hood a week ago. "Well, Vanessa," I said, cool as ice, "seems like you had quite the adventure. Enjoy the stay?" Her face twisted with rage. "I'm calling the cops. Unlawful confinement." "Go ahead," I replied, pulling out my tablet. "But first, take a look at this." I angled the screen to show the camera footage, her smug dismissal, her sneaking back into the bay, and her week-long meltdown. "You trespassed, refused to leave, and locked yourself in. I had to secure my property before a trip. Didn't know you were still in there." Her mouth opened and closed, her face paling. I played her Vox messages next, the ones she'd sent through a crack in the shielding. "Help me, you monster. You psychopath." I raised an eyebrow. Not exactly the story of an innocent victim, is it? Right on cue, Greg pulled up looking confused. "Vanessa, where have you been?" The housing board sent a notice. Vanessa whirled on him. "This maniac trapped me in his garage for a week." Greg glanced at the footage, then at her. "So, why were you in his bay in the first place?" That was it, the moment her world collapsed. I clapped my hands. "I won't press charges. Consider this a lesson in boundaries." But the housing board had other plans. Vanessa's tablet pinged with a notification, a massive fine for trespassing, disturbing the neighborhood, and neglecting her dog. Worse, her community privileges, access to the gardens, water rations, even her precious role on the maintenance committee, were revoked for a year. The very rules she'd weaponized against us had turned on her. I gave her a mock salute. "See you around, Vanessa. Try respecting people's space next time." She didn't scream or fight. She just deflated, letting Greg guide her away, a broken shadow of the tyrant she'd been. I turned to my pristine, Vanessa-free bay, a grin splitting my face. Sometimes justice is a locked door and a well-placed camera. What do you think? Was Ethan's revenge justified, or did he go too far? How do you feel about taking justice into your own hands when faced with entitlement or unfairness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on violence, justice, and standing up for yourself in today's world.